Thanks for tuning in to OPM Live, which is an extension of Ordinary People magazine. I am so happy that you all decided to join us today and taking a small time out of your day to be here with us. And today we have an awesome show. We have a wonderful guest. Before we get to that, let's thank our sponsors: Vimashi Enterprise, Southern Eagle Music Group, It's a Raised Vision, and Gemstones and Trinkets. And so, as you all know, we are keeping ourselves safe. We are still doing the 6 feet apart. So, you're keeping yourself safe. You're keeping the people around you safe. We are still doing it, and we're moving forward with everything that goes with that. And so, with that being said, we are going straight into our show because we want to give our guests a lot of time to share with us about her awesome business and the things that she has going on. And so with that, let's bring in our guest. Hello, how are you today, Pamela?
I am doing well. How are you, Miss Verna?
I'm doing fantastic, doing just great. And your week has been wonderful?
It has. It has been packed full with a lot of exciting things. Impacting lives is what I do. So,
That's fantastic. So if you don't mind sharing with us a little bit about yourself and what you have going on, and then tell us about Bonafide Credit Consultant. Tell us about that. The floor is
yes.
yours.
All righty. Well, again, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm delighted to be here. Bonafide, even though it's spelled different, it's pronounced Bonafide. Credit Consultants LLC. On that side of my business, what we do is provide financial capability education, personal money management. We do that through workshops and seminars and some one-on-one consultations. I have limited number of consultations that I do as it relates to that. And that business was actually started back in 2008. At that time, I was still in corporate America. I was vice president of collections, recovery, fraud, and probate of all things at a national bank. But Bonafide was actually birthed out of, wow, how do I say this? I was kind of, what I do on the collection side, of course, is helping people maneuver through, problem solve, that kind of thing. And people would always say, oh my gosh, you need to do what you do. People need what you do. Not only what you do, but how you do it. And I would be like, okay, like I would just help people when they ask. But back in mid to late 2007, my pastor preached a whole series on walking in your purpose. And it seemed like during that season when he was preaching on that, we would go out of town, we'd visit a church, everywhere I turned, it was the same message. You need to do this. People need the services that you're providing the way that you provide them. And finally, in 2008, I threw up the red flag, and I acquiesced, Lord, like I'm going to accept the assignment. And so it was then that Bonafide was birthed. Long story as to how I came up with the name, but it's amazing. And I'm the author of a book, Bonafide Bits where inspiration and intellect collide with your finances. But I'm also currently writing my second and third book kind of at the same time. But the second book, I will share the story about the naming of the company, kind of where all of that came from and how initially it was just kind of a buzzword, a name for marketing, that spelled different, all those marketing kind of things to make it stand out. And it all started with what you thought was just something so superficial. My husband had vanity plates for many, many years. So his license plate is Justified, JUSTA number 5D. And so it was in that same vein that Bonafide, the spelling of Bonafide, that it came. But we later, some years, had an encounter. What I honestly know, me and my husband, was really an encounter with Jesus. Like he was literally like right here, in physical form. And so what started out to be what we thought vanity plates really now have grown into testimonial plates. And so there's a whole long story around that, but a beautiful story about him and how his presence, his orchestration, when you're obedient, what that means, what that does, how that plays out, ways that you couldn't even imagine, kind of thing. So that's bona fide. And then most recently, amidst the pandemic of all things, I launched another division of Bonafide Credit Consultants LLC. And I say another division because even though it's a different concept altogether, I've always used or spoke to or taught on some of the subject, right? And so they're not mutually exclusive, because if you're not in a good headspace, you make bad financial decisions. And so this new division of my company is called B5 Reaffirm.
Say
And
that again.
B5 Reaffirm. So
B5.
B
Okay.
and everything is in fives, and I'll explain why everything kind of, and again, it wasn't that way intentionally, it is just his orchestration, but it's B5, the letter B, the number 5, and then Reaffirm.
Okay.
And that division of my company focuses on mental health, but specifically low self-esteem of females. And the reason why I say I've always talked about that, because again, when you're talking about financial matters, your mental health, your mind, your thought processes all directly impact the decisions that you make financially.
Yes.
And so to get women in a different headspace, a positive headspace, that by default then will affect the decisions that they make financially. So I'm excited. That, I say, is my assignment from the big guy. And it has been an amazing journey. I grasped to try to find a word big enough, an adjective magnificent enough to describe the twists and turns in what he has unveiled as I accepted this assignment. With, like everything that I do, my goal is always to have impact. And what I mean by that is whoever's life, whoever's path that I cross, I want their life to be better in some way, because our life is past, that I've had some kind of impact. So whether it's a smile, a kind word, a conversation, sharing a bona fide bit or a nugget, whatever it is, I want their life to be better in some way. And so when B5 Reaffirm was launched, that desire remained constant. But what I did not see or foresee or really anticipate, but he knew immediately when he gave me the assignment, that this launch, this division, this purpose, this mission will not only impact lives, but literally these boxes have saved some lives. So
That's amazing. I like how you say mental health and wealth and all those go together.
mm-hmm.
And using my own self as an example, I can honestly remember when I just lived literally off my credit cards. It's like I was just working to pay the credit card.
Yes.
And it took me, I can even remember deciding I was not going to pay anybody either. But for that particular pay period, but I paid for that mistake. I honestly did, because
mm-hmm.
that was definitely the wrong thing to do. So I definitely get that, because for some reason we get that joy when we go on shopping, that
Mm-hmm.
for that moment it's an incredible feeling. But in the end, you
You
it's like
pay.
then it becomes a downer,
Mm-hmm.
because now you got to pay. But while you out
Extra.
there, it's just a super high, and you really
Mm-hmm.
do have to get your mind wrapped around the right way to
Right.
distribute your wealth or pay. You know,
And honestly, you're not alone, in that. There's so many people that um, go down that path not knowing. Some of it is actually generational. And so that's one of the other arms of Bonafide that we focus on, and that's generational transfer. And that includes not only generational wealth transfer, but generationally transferring knowledge and generationally transferring behaviorals, right? When you know better, you do better. And so if your grandparents, great grandparents, or even your parents for that matter, it's not that they had all this knowledge bottled up and they wanted to keep it from you, because I can't wait to see you fail. Right? It's not that at all. They can't teach what they don't know. And so it is when the knowledge is gained and then transferred, right? That if when I do workshops or seminars, what I say is it doesn't matter that you're 50, 60, whatever age, when you come to the workshop, my goal is always the same, and that is that you get it. And what I mean by that is that you have a clear understanding of money management, how money works, the importance of saving, the importance of investing, and all of that generational wealth, the difference between rich and the difference in being wealthy, right? And when you have a plan, if you don't have a plan, then the plan by default is that a plan to fail, right? And so I need my participants, my clients, my customers to have a plan. But again, as I always say to them, it's a partnership between me and the client, right? And a partnership is usually at least two people. And the result of this partnership is going to be an action plan. 2 words, right? 2 people, 2 words. And so my role in this partnership is to come up with the plan. Right. Their role in the partnership is to apply action to the plan that I create. Because either way, it's default. If you don't have a plan, then you're just flailing, right? If you have a plan and don't apply action, then they're just words on a piece of paper. They have no value. And quite frankly, if you've already paid me my fee up front to get the action plan and then you don't apply the action, that is in direct correlation with what got you where you are right now, making bad financial decisions. So why would you pay me to come up with a plan and then not implement it?
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. That's money wasted, right? That's another bad financial decision. And so, you certainly were not alone in, we know we grow, right? And the fact that the lessons that you learned, if you then turn around and told your children, your grandchildren, your cousins, your nieces, your nephews, your family members, your neighbor, the people at the church in your neighborhood, the more you talked about it and shared that experience, that knowledge is now transferred and will save somebody some time, effort, energy, and some money in the long run if they decide to embrace, right, take action on the knowledge that you transferred. So,
yes, I mean, my children, I can say we was actually in it together. I said to them, I said, listen, we're not going to pay anybody this pay period. We are going to enjoy this money. It was my whole check, right? Mm-hmm. My youngest son said, we're not going to pay anybody? I said, we're not going to pay anybody. It was the worst. Yes. My youngest son said to me, he probably was elementary. I mean, I'm sure he was elementary age that year. I'm sure he was, because the way he looked at me, he said, we're not going to pay anybody? And I said, no, we're not. We are going to go out and enjoy this money. I felt like I had worked so hard for it. But the worst decision I made, because it put me like 2 months behind and everything, mortgage, everything. But you know what? Lesson learned. You don't do it no more. It's like having a really good chocolate candy bar, and later on you have an awful stomach ache because you shouldn't have had it in the first place.
Mm-hmm. But we live and we learn, and that's the key. What I tell my clients is this one simple fact: the only true value in visiting your past mistakes is to learn the lesson. Mm-hmm. Once you've learned the lesson, you got to let it go and move on. Because, I always use the analogy, you can't drive a car by looking in the rearview mirror. That's an accident waiting to happen, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to look back periodically, right? You got to look over your shoulder, look in the rearview mirror. You got to do that. That's self-preservation. But you can't drive the car like this because you can't see what's in front of you. And so, just learning that lesson and moving forward. This day forward is what I say. This day forward. When you know better, you do better. But if there's value, not only related to finances, but just in life in general, for those believers, then they know your test isn't for you. It is your testimonial then becomes for someone else.
Absolutely.
Right? So you had to go through it, grow through it. But if you then don't share it, you keep it private, then the value is lost, because that message, that lesson was not only for you, it was for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And so we often get, I don't want to say prideful, but embarrassed or for whatever reason, like I don't want anyone to know that I made this horrible mistake. But how about, I always tell How about on your worst day? On your worst day, just know there's somebody who's worse off than you. I don't care
Yeah.
what the situation. I don't care what it is. You don't know that, but there's somebody who's worse off than you, and so that should give you some kind of solace, like that there is a way up because there's somebody lower than me, right? Kind of thing. But also to know, which kind of segues into the B5 reaffirm side of the business, and that is that no human is perfect. No individual is perfect. No one's life is perfect. That we are each and every one uniquely created. And in that uniqueness, we are perfectly imperfect.
Mm.
And I think when we embrace that fact, when we take perfection off of the table as a ruler of measurement, then that opens up utopia. I mean, that opens up everything. Because if you know that perfection is not attainable, then you just continue to work hard to be the best version of you. And that's all you can really do is to try to one up yourself, right? Because you never should be competing with and comparing yourself to someone else. It's always about you. And so you need to one up you from yesterday. What I mean by that is, set the goal that I want to be a better person today than I was yesterday. Not a
Mm-hmm.
better person. I don't want to be a better person than Verna was, or Sally, or Timmy, or Jimmy, or what. I want to be a better person than Pamela was yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that it's a journey, not a destination. So I'm not going to ever arrive. But if each day I wake up with the intent to one up myself, just think of the positivity that I'm leaving. I'm not perfect, right? I'm going to make some mistakes. I'm going to do some things wrong. But that's not the place that it came from. It came from a place of positivity because my goal, my mission was to be better today than I was yesterday. And that's how do you eat that elephant? One small bite at a time, right?
That's always that's the first thing I say in the morning
Mm-hmm.
or the moment that I lay down and wake up is always uh, make me a better person today than I was yesterday, or help me to be a better person
Yes.
today than I was yesterday. Not only thank you for the day, thank you for
Mm-hmm.
this day. So it's
This day.
always pretty much the same thing. So you're absolutely right. It kind of helps you to have a perspective of what your day may be like, or
Mm-hmm.
what you subscribe for that particular day.
Right.
Because every day is different, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak, because you just never know what's going to take place. But I think if you affirm or give yourself positive energy from the
Right.
beginning of the day, it kind
Set the
of
tone.
it definitely sets the tone.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And knowing that, you know what? I'm not perfect, but I'm not alone because nobody else is perfect. So no one else can, one up, oh, I'm more perfect. No, because no one's perfect. And I think some people put that extra burden on themselves, trying to keep up with the Joneses, as that old phrase would say, just in the different context of perfection. Oh, your life is so perfect. I want to be just like Verna. Her life is so perfect, right?
Far from
And
it.
what are you working towards? And then, if you want to put that, excuse my earbud dropped out. If you put that in the context of the Bible, it clearly says in there about coveting other people's stuff,
Right.
right? Right. So no matter where you are, whether you're on the religious side and faith based, or just life in general, you don't know what it is you're asking for. And these young kids, I work with a lot of youth, and they always see social media, they see, Hollywood, celebrity, this, that, and the other, and they're all caught up in all of that. No one, I don't care how much money you have in the bank, money doesn't make your life perfect, right? So these stars or celebrities, athletes, or whoever, they may have a lot of money, but some of them are absolutely miserable. And some of the same problems Pookie and Ray Ray have from the hood, they have in Beverly Hills, right? Because it's not
Mm-hmm.
about the money, it's about life. And if you are a horrible person, having a lot of money doesn't miraculously make you a nice person. You're just a horrible person with a lot of money, right?
That's
And so
true.
that's why we need to just focus on self and our heart and being a good person. It's not about the money, right? It's not
Right.
about your zip code. I remember our church went to Africa several years ago, and you go into some of these villages, and by our standard, oh my gosh, you're so poor, like you have nothing. Like, oh my gosh, you are lacking so many things. But when you just sit back and observe these people, they are the happiest, joyful, people that, and you're like, oh my, we got all this stuff, and we're so, look at them, they don't have a care in the world. Life is good. I mean, like real joy, like real joy. And they don't have, by our measures, you don't have anything. But the reality is, when you look at it and put it in perspective, they are so much wealthier than us.
Mm-hmm.
Where it really matters, where it really counts, right? They don't have to get caught up in all these material things, because I don't have it, you don't have it, nobody has it. We're not even focused on that. So what do they focus on? Loving each other, being there for each other, supporting each other, caring for each other, all of those things. And that's where the true richness and wealth come from. We just, in the US, like, we're just caught up in all these material things, but that's not really where the true value lies. And I think we as Americans, we struggle with, really seeing that and understanding that. I often share the story, oh gosh, what's been like 5 years ago, I guess, when the hurricanes came through and Texas got wiped out pretty much, and all of that. I live in Florida, and we always are threatened with hurricanes, right? But in the 20 plus years that I've lived here, I've never left, right? Until that last hurricane, during that time, and me and my husband were back and forth. Should we go? Should we stay? Should we go? At one point, the hurricane was headed directly to Tampa, which is where I am. And always in years past, they've been headed to us before, and always last minute they return, right? A blessing for us, but not so much for someone else, or what have you. But you're in that moment. But that particular hurricane, we really, like, my husband called me from work that day. He says, like, I really think we need to make plans, right? Preparations to leave. Of course, me, call it, I don't know, material. First thing, let me pick up the phone and call the airline. Let's book us a plane to get out of here, right? And my husband was like, no, sweetie. Like, we need to leave, but wherever we go, we need to drive one of the cars, right? So, because wherever you land, at least you would have transportation, and I was like, duh, like one of those moments, but like I'm all caught up in fear and anxiety and all this, that, and the other, like, get out quick. And like, no, we need to drive where we're going. We need to drive there so that we would have the car. So we've kind of made up our mind that we're going to go. And so now this task, I'm going to say that this is probably going to be in one of my books too, because it's so rich in how he just orchestrates and just is so ever present. But I'm planning to leave, right? And so my husband decided we were going to drive my car. And I have a little BMW SUV, an X1, which is the smallest of them. Well, I think now they have one that's a little bit smaller, but an X1, right? So it's not a huge vehicle, right? And the two front seats are gone, so they don't count in terms of your stuff, right?
Right.
And so you've got this car, our house, a little over 3,000 square feet. 3,000 square feet, a car. 3,000 square feet, a car, right? And like, you can't put all of that here, right? It's not going to work. And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like, so many things that I want to take. Like, oh my gosh, all the photo albums, and all the important stuff, the bills, and all that kind of stuff. Oh my gosh, all my clothes, all these memorabilia, all stuff, right? A lot of stuff, because we've been married for 25 years and been together for 30. So we got a lot of stuff, right?
A lot of stuff.
And I was focused on all this stuff, and like, oh my gosh, how do you choose amongst the stuff? You need some clothes, you need some of that, all of it. When I take, and it was really just that frantic, like, oh my gosh, like what? And then I thought, okay, so the stuff that I'm going to leave, I started bagging stuff up into those big black garbage bags and kind of trying to sit it high, thinking if the storm came through and ripped the roof off or what have you, then at least if I had some of these things in plastic bags, they could be saved. And if they were up high, if the house flooded, the water came in, they're on counters. And so that buys me a little more time, right? And so I can protect my stuff. So getting back to loading the car. So the car, and it's like you really have to be strategic and you have to be intentional because 3,000 feet does not fit in an X1. Not by anybody's math. I don't know how good you are at packing. It just isn't going to happen. And long story short, I was back and forth with that whole thing. And then I asked myself this question. This is how he spoke to me. If you had to start your life over, right? Because that's what you're really anticipating is that when we leave, that when we come back, the house will be destroyed, blah, 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 because that's what happens when a hurricane comes through. So if you had to start your life over, what would you need to start your life over? Right? So you need like your important documents and that kind of stuff. It's nice to have family albums, memories. But what I did with that, I went through with my phone and took pictures of pictures so that I could at least reprint them out or something if I had to. But then I began to weep, and the reality set in. And the answer to that question that he posed to me was, if you had to start your life over, what would you need? And the reality, the answer to that question, you know what it was?
Yeah.
My husband. That's
Oh,
all I
your
needed.
husband.
I had
Yeah.
him and my husband. That's all I really needed was him and my husband. The others, it was just stuff. It was
Stuff.
just things, right? And you can buy things, you can buy stuff. But I couldn't replace my husband, right? And so when I had that epiphany, it was like this ton of bricks, that this burden was lifted because I was so torn on how do I choose and what and when and back and forth and back and forth and it won't fit. Well, maybe I can squeeze one more thing in there, one more thing, all of that. And then it was like, wow, all I need was him and him. That's all. And both of them would fit in the front seat of the car. Right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so for me, that was such an epiphany. And since that time, when I tell you, I like no different than anybody, I like nice things and stuff. But when I tell you my stuff has a new, different value for me, it's all just stuff. And I don't get caught up in all of that anymore because it's nice to have, but if it's gone, it's gone. So what? I got my health, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I never forget shortly thereafter at church, and I had on this necklace or whatever, and someone, one of the members of the church, oh, I just love your necklace. What did I say to her? See me after church, it's yours. It's just stuff. Because she so it meant so much for me. It was a necklace, and I have lots of necklaces. I didn't have another one like that, but I have other. And if I didn't have that one, how about I would have found something else to wear, right? I would have found a different necklace
Right.
to put on. So it really didn't have that kind of value for me to be able to bless her and give her that kind of joy for something that had value to me, but it's not life or death kind of value. It meant a lot to me. It blessed me to be able to bless her with this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just really where I am with stuff and things and all of that. But it took a hurricane, right? And this journey of self discovery to really boil it down to get your priorities straight, right? The stuff don't matter.
And so when it comes to your workshop, you teach those principles.
I do. I do absolutely. It was like an added principle. I've always taught the wisdom and all that kind of stuff and shared story. And when you tell a story, it resonates more with people. And of course, like I said, I wasn't the only one. I'm sure that went through that kind of turmoil of stuff. Just like when you talked about and shared, your journey as relates to finances and taking the month off or what have you, right? And the
Yeah.
consequences. You're not the only one, right, who went through that. But what a lesson that you learned and that you can share with someone else, not only your kids, but maybe some random stranger that he puts in your path and he gives you that discernment. Share that story. You're like, I don't know why I'm telling you this about myself. But then there you are. You're telling that. So why? Because maybe that person, he sent them to you because they needed to hear your story the way that you're going to tell it so that it'll resonate with them and so that they don't feel alone and they don't continue to beat themselves up for the bad choices and mistakes that they made. They say, you know what? I learned a lesson. This day forward, let's keep it moving, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even
Mm-hmm.
making that choice doesn't mean I'm now perfect, right? And I won't ever make another mistake because you will. But if you learn
Right.
the lesson, you won't make that mistake again, right?
Absolutely.
And so absolutely, I'd love to share the story. Why? Because somebody somewhere needed to hear that story about stuff, because maybe they've lost some relationships or something over stuff,
Hmm.
right? And
Right.
you're like, oh my gosh! I mean, you've heard stories of people. Your home is burning down, and you get out safely, but then you ran in to get some stuff, and then you died in the fire. Really, it was just stuff.
Yeah, that's
Like
tragic. That is so
yeah.
tragic.
And so maybe someone hearing my story will take the context and put it in the context of a house fire. When your house is on fire, you're gonna keep your tail out on the sidewalk and let the
Right.
firemen do their work, because it's just stuff. I don't care if it's an heirloom. I don't care that it had whatever emotional value or monetary value. You cannot put or place value on your life. And
That's
so
true.
whatever that thing or things are is, so what? It's gone.
That's true. And we accumulate so much stuff. Because I can remember when my mother, who's deceased now, she was downsizing from her home to
Mm-hmm.
now moving into a senior citizen community, and it was hard. She had to move because now, she had more going out than she had coming in as far as
Mm-hmm.
monetarily.
Right.
And so when we downsized, well, when I downsized or, went in through, she had so much stuff
Yeah.
from the years of being there and looked like every time I had the get rid of pile and the keep pile, the get that pile was supposed to be higher than the
Right.
keep
The
pile.
keep pile.
But she
Mm-hmm.
kept taking stuff over to the keep pile. And then it got so bad that even when we put the stuff on the street that was supposed to actually go, it was
Sneak out there and
coming
get one
back.
of them.
She was coming back, getting stuff from that pile and trying to take it to her smaller piece.
Right.
And so I think at some point she realized she just couldn't take it all. But that
Right.
was a lesson for me to not have so much stuff even
Mm-hmm.
now. So I don't have a lot of stuff anymore.
Yeah.
My husband I recently got married, but I think my husband was surprised that he still said I have a lot of stuff, but I don't have nearly as much as
Right.
I once had because of how it was when we was downsizing her. So wow,
Right.
you have a huge assignment
Mm-hmm.
in teaching all of those. Is it you said reaffirming?
Yeah. So the bona fide side is where we do the financial personal money management stuff. So the B5 reaffirm side, um, I'll show you. This is the product. It's called the B5 reaffirmation box.
Uh-huh.
And I won't go into all the little goodies inside, but just inside of the lid here is a heart. And the heart says, I am a B5. And
Oh, okay.
unfortunately, not to leave the fellas out, but this is female driven, female specific product. And inside that has that little heart, says, I am a B5. And a B5 stands for a bona fide boss with brains, beauty, and a believer in me.
Okay.
That's the mantra. That's the mission. It is what I want these females to walk away with when it's all said and done, that they know beyond a shadow of a doubt. They know that they know that they know that I am a B5. I'm a bona fide boss with brains, beauty, and a believer in me. And the me part is emphasized because, everyone has an opinion. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. We need to accept that. But at the end of the day, when it comes to you, the most important opinion and the only opinion that really matters about you is the opinion that you have about yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I need these females, any female that I have the opportunity to serve, to know that this is me, and I don't care what the world says, I don't care what this person says, my boss, I don't care. I know that I know that I know that this is what I am. This is who I am. And if you're a believer, then you know whose you are. And that ought to give you a little bit of place of joy right there. But just knowing that, and the other underlying mantra for that program is I'm me. And that is an emphatic statement that I'm me. Just knowing and understanding that's all I can ever be is me. So I can't be Verna, Verna can't be me, I can't be Tammy, I can't be Kim. All I can ever be is Pam. And so once I have that clear understanding, What I need
Mhm.
to then do is focus on being the best me that I can be, right? And I me
Right.
is also an acronym that stands for improve my mental esteem. And that's the journey that the program takes them on, of understanding self, your value, your worth. Um, there's a workbook that goes with it. The workbook is called Grace. And Grace is the definition of grace as well as the acronym. And the acronym is about the activities in the workbook. And so it's around gratitude, reflection, attitude, character, and esteem are the activities in the workbook which reinforce affirmation and reaffirmation, which is what the box is designed to do. So, and everything about the box is very intentional, right down to the color of the box. It's purple because purple is about transformation, right?
Right.
Pink is about elegance and tranquility and all those kind of things, and that's why it is purple and pink. Um, we even have the logo has been converted to a patch, and the reason why is that I have a partnership with the Girl Scouts. And so the Girl Scouts, they have their own curriculum that I created for them. And when they complete their tasks, they earn their B5 patch to go on their sashes. So really excited about that partnership. But all the programs, the Girl Scout program, the Grace Workbook, and the B5 Reaffirmation Box, all of it is streaming and fundamental, the foundation of becoming the best version of you and making you a priority in your life. And that for some, it's teaching them. For others, it's gently reminding them of their true value and that they have purpose. And the world is not complete without them in it, right? And so I often use the analogy of a puzzle. And it's that it could be a 10-piece puzzle, 1,000-piece puzzle, a 5,000-piece puzzle. It doesn't matter. And you can put all the time, effort, energy, work, and put it together. If one piece is missing, the puzzle's not complete.
True.
And so, thus, we are these puzzle pieces in this thing we call universe and life, right? And so, we all have a role to play in putting this puzzle together. Each of us is a piece in that. And that piece meaning that we each have something uniquely to offer. And so, when I work with entrepreneurs, I tell them, there's other people who might do what you do now or what you anticipate doing if you're in the ideation stage. It doesn't matter because no one can do it like you but you,
That's
right?
true.
I recently, I'm part of an anthology, and my chapter in the book, I'm talking about this whole entrepreneur thing and being uniquely designed and self-esteem. And in that chapter, I actually use the analogy of bread. And if you were just to go in a grocery store, any grocery store, and go down the aisle, how many different brands, how many different types, how many different sizes and loaves and color and packaging of bread is there? You probably can't even count them all on one hand because there's so many. Even
That's
if it's just a
true.
little convenience store, right? They're going to have variety. And just suppose one of those bakers said, well, I was going to do bread, but there's already some bread, so I'm not going to do bread. And just so
Hmm.
happens that was the brand, the style, or whatever that you particularly love. And it
Right.
would have been without bread. If you like wheat, if you like white, if you like whole grain, if you like thin slice or fat sliced, or because there's so many varieties, right? And the reality is, all of those breads would not be on that aisle of that store that you're on if there wasn't someone to purchase it. Because we, American, supply and demand. If there was no demand, there would be no need for the supply, right?
That's true.
And if there was no money to be made and making bread, then there would be just one mono bread. Everybody eating the same kind of bread because there's already somebody making bread, so I need to go make
Yeah.
something else because I can't make money making bread because someone else is already making bread. No, your bread is going to have maybe it's your great grandmama's recipe, right? It's got that secret
Hmm.
sauce. It's got that little secret something to set it apart. Because even within one category, if you say wheat bread, how many different brands and recipes of wheat bread do you see in a single aisle? And then when you talk about how many grocery stores there are, right?
Yep.
So we
Yes,
can't
that's true.
limit
That's true.
ourselves. We just can't. No one's going to do it quite like you. And
I
so
said the
you got
same
to be in it
thing.
to win it.
Hmm. I think I've said the same thing. Reference hamburger places.
Hmm. Yeah.
McDonald's is definitely not concerned with Burger King. Burger King is not concerned with Wendy's.
And sometimes
I
they're
mean,
right across the street from each other. I mean, literally on the same block, right across the street or whatever. And
yep,
gas stations the same way. How do you have two gas stations on some corner? There's a gas station on every corner. They're
yes,
all in business. How are
yes,
they staying in
yes.
business? Because somebody's buying their product.
That's true. That's true.
You know.
But just, I mean, the pie is so big, we can
Hmm.
all have a slice or a
Absolutely. So
piece.
don't limit
I
yourself by
mean,
any stretch of the imagination.
yes,
And again, for those who are believers, then you can do all things. All things. Just let him. Just let him. Let go and let him, and all things are possible. Like I said, this whole B5 reaffirm thing. This is all him. This is my assignment, right? And it's so different than my other side of the business on the bona fide side. It's workshops and seminars, so it's PowerPoints and virtual and all of that kind of stuff, and you talking. Well, B5 Reaffirm, it's products, it's services, it's a whole different kind of business, right? And yeah, you can get kind of anxious about like the unknown, like I don't really know what I'm doing and all of that. But I know it's my assignment. And so I just step in all in, and I just know that I know he's gonna work it out. It ain't someone asked me, well, what if it fails? Well, I don't know, because I've never even considered that as an option, because it's my assignment. So I'm not even giving it any thought, because that's not something that's gonna happen, because I'm on a mission driven by him, and he won't let it fail because it's his mission, right? If it was Pam's mission, well, yeah, that all the failure is a possibility, but this is his mission. And so, no, and absolutely every step of the way that I've been so far, and like I said, I just launched this during the pandemic. Doors, people that I need, boom, they're right there in my, he's just been connecting me with people in his time that I need for this. It's time to do this. Oh, well, so take the next up. Oh, there's, right. It's just been happening. And when those kind of things happen to me, I say hashtag GISCC. And that means God is so crazy cool. And that means you can't explain it no matter how hard you try. When the first time I said that, it was like, wow, it's kind of like, this thing happens, and you're like, oh my gosh, how crazy is that happened? And then you sit back and you revel in it, and you're like, how cool is that? Did that crazy thing happen to me? Right? And when you can't
right.
explain it, it's just him, right? It's nothing you could have done or said or orchestrated. It's like, wow, like, wow. You're just constantly in awe. Because even my first book that I wrote, Bonafide Bits for Inspiration and Intellect Collide with Your Finances. When I tell you it doesn't meet any kind of format for writing books and all of that kind of stuff, that's how I know it was all him. So I, people have been telling me, oh, you need to write a book. And I'm like, yeah. But this was back in 2015, because I spoke in March of 2016 at this women's conference in Atlanta. So I was a keynote. And of course, as part of that, you get a vendor table and all of that. And I thought, well, how am I going to be the keynote at this women's conference with a vendor table and nothing to sell? Not a good look. Like, what do you look like? Like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, dang it, nope, whatever it takes, I'm going to have something on that table to sell before I get to Atlanta in a month and a half, right? Because it's like January and I was going in March. And less than 45 days from start to having a hard copy in my hand of writing my first book. I mean,
That's
edited,
amazing.
proofed, all of that. Hard in my hand, not an ebook, a physical book in my hand. And all I can say is hashtag GISCC. I need it. Never read a book before, so I'm learning as I go. I don't know how to start. I can write the book, but like, ISBN numbers and editors and read proofers. And I'm learning all that terminology as I'm going along, because I had no idea. I've read a lot of books, but didn't know how to. When I needed someone to do graphics, boom. All the people that I needed, literally, for that book were already in my path, meaning in my Rolodex, that I met some point in the past or what have you. But just knowing them wasn't an aha. When I call them up and say, I need this like yesterday. Their response, what do you need me to do? We'll get it done. I mean, even so much, the foreword in my book, my foreword in that book was done by Dr. Willie Jolly. And I don't know if you guys know Dr. Jolly, but he's a world-renowned keynote speaker, all of that. I mean, his circle, he's running like in the Oprah circles and the Brian Tracy's and the John Maxwell's. That's his circle of people, right? And I met him at an event, and like everybody, and I almost didn't even go to the event. A friend of mine basically twisted my arm to go to the event. And so I went, and after the event, and he spoke, I was just in awe because when I tell you, he took the stage and he was so unapologetic about his faith. He just, like me and Jesus. You don't like it? Exit stage. Like he was just like, boom, this is who I am. This is how I roll. And if you don't like it, can't get next to it. Not my problem. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so afterwards, he's like, oh, I'll be outside. If you guys want to talk or whatever, just very personable and everything. So I go outside, long line. I'm in the line with everybody else to get my selfie, right? With Dr. Willie Jolly and get to meet him. But always in those scenarios, I'm always trying to set myself up to have a one-on-one conversation outside of the event. So I had my card already in my hand for when it was my turn to get my little selfie and everything. And so I handed my card. My cards are, again, I need it to be intentional. So my cards are purple, all that. So they say, anybody's got vanilla cards, cream cup, mine is purple. So it stands out and it has my picture on it. And so as I'm taking my selfie, I hand him my card and say, I really would like to chat with you when you get an opportunity, right? So we take our selfie. So fast forward to my situation with this conference and writing the book and trying to think of someone to write a forward. So I didn't even know what that's, I had to research like who should write a forward, right? Like who is the right person? Of course, it's saying someone who has standing in your industry, right? Someone who's known, or that's your ideal utopic forward kind of thing. And so my first thought was I had an opportunity to meet Glenda Bridgeforth years past, and she's in my lane. And so I thought, oh, this would be great to have Glenda do my forward. So I reached out to her, and it wasn't a good time for her. She had some health challenges and things. And then he plopped it in my spirit, Dr. Willie Jolly. And I met that man for 30 seconds, like not even 30 seconds. However long it take you to take a selfie and hand him a card. That's when I met him and had my brief conversation. But my philosophy, and I hope your viewers will embrace it, is I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell me no. And that's how I've run everything. So I'm going to ask you, worst case scenario, you're going to tell me no, and life is going to go on. So no different. I call my friend, like, do you happen to have a number? I always refer to it like the number to the red phone, meaning cut through the red tape kind of thing to get right to the person. And he's like, no, but I think I have a number to like his admin or something. And I reached out and I said to her, like, I would really like for Dr. Jolly to write the forward in my book. And so she said, send her the information and she'll check with him. Well, lo and behold, I sent her the information, but I got an email response back directly from Dr. Jolly.
Wow.
And he's saying, I would love to do your forward. It'll probably be like 12 weeks because I have some people in front of you. I'm excited that you said yes. But no, I'll have to wait like 45 days. Like I got to be in Atlanta for this conference, right? And so I just say, well, was worth it. Responding back, I'm so grateful, that you'll do my forward, but I need the forward like yesterday. Like I'm going to this women's conference, so I explained to him that I needed to expedite it. And I'll never forget it. I was at a workshop, not teaching it. I was in a workshop myself, in person, like pre-COVID. And I'm sitting there, my phone beeps, right? And I look down and I check my email. And it is the completed forward from my book from Dr. Jolly. Like he didn't respond back to say, yeah, I can do it or will do it. Like it was done. Wow. The tears rolled down my face because I was just in awe. Like, when you say favor, God's favor. Like it shouldn't have happened. It couldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened, but it did happen, right? And so that's how Dr. Willie Jolly did the forward in my book when I had known him like 30 seconds or whatever. God's favor. I got my book. I had it in hand for my conference. The conference went well, all of that. And now today, Dr. Willie is actually my mentor.
That's great.
Look, or my tormentor, as he likes to refer to himself sometimes.
That's really
all
awesome.
of that by taking a risk and saying, I know other people might ask, well, I'm going to ask, what's the worst thing that can happen? he would tell me no, or I can't, or I don't have time, or I won't. But he didn't. He said yes. So
That's
go for the
amazing.
gusto. Don't ever sell yourself short because you don't know. Just prepare yourself for the no and go for it.
That's amazing. What an amazing story. And thank you so much for all that you do for your community. I'm really loving the B5 reaffirm.
Reaffirm. Mm-hmm.
I like that. Love
So
the
my
box.
jacket.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, I see
Yeah,
that.
that's my jacket. I have my jacket done. So look, I mark it wherever I can. So actually, I even have some B5 pumps. And my Bonafide, I have a Bonafide jacket as well, and some Bonafide pumps as well. This local artist here in Florida, over that's what he does. And his motto, excuse me, his motto is he'll put paint where it ain't. His company is one of one custom, so everything he does is by hand, one of one custom. So when he did my Bonafide jacket many years ago, of course, when I launched B5, I had to have some gear, and he
Yes,
came
great
through.
marketing. Great marketing
Yes.
skill. Great marketing.
Mhm.
Love it, love it, love it. So, Miss Pamela McCoy, if you can just share with our audience one last thing that you would like to let them know, and then also how they can connect with you, how they can get more information on the things that you are involved in, you can do that at this time.
Well, my one bona fide bit or nugget would be, as I simply said, adopt the philosophy, give them, whoever them or it is, the opportunity to tell you no. So just ask for it, right? Whatever it is that you want, go for the gusto. Don't sell yourself short. Don't underestimate your ability to do, to accomplish, to um, win at whatever it is that you're going after. You know, no one can be you but you. So just focus on being the best you that you can be. Know that you have value, you have worth, you have something very unique to offer this world. And so we're all excited to find out what that is from you, right? And they can get in contact with me either of my websites, bonafidecc.com. And remember, the bonafide is spelled different, BONA, the number 5D, cc.com, or the B5reaffirm.com. They can email me at info at either one of those, info at bonafidecc.com or info at b5reaffirm.com. They can find me on all social media platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm on all of those platforms. I love the support for what I'm doing. Telling people, as I always say, tell a friend to tell a friend, right?
Mhm.
To help me get the word out about what I do. My purpose, my value, my mission is impact, and impact in saving lives. And I would be delighted to have each and every one of them come alongside me in whatever form that they can, whether it's just pushing my information out to their contacts and their social media platforms, whether it's hiring me to come in and implement the B5 Reaffirmation Box program. If you need consultation or want to do a workshop as relates to personal money management, we can do that. We can do a combination of the two. You know, whatever it is, I would be delighted to help them in any way that I can. And if they want to text me or call me, that number is 813-495-8568.
Okay, okay. So thank you so much, Miss Pamela McCoy. It has definitely been a pleasure having you on the show and learning so much about all the awesome things. Oh, wow. So not getting a little choky here. Learning about all the great things that you do for your community and for the women. I definitely
Thank
appreciate it
you.
and learning so
Thank
much
you.
about you. Thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been my pleasure, my delight to be here.
Okay. Thank you. And we will talk with you on another day.
All righty. God bless.
God bless. So we thank Miss Pamela for being on our show today and learning so much about everything that she does for her community and everything she has going on. And we are reading from, this year we are reading from Beast by Still Waters, 365 Devotions to Quiet and Refresh Your Soul by Anita Hickman and Marian Leslie. And so today we are reading The Real Deal. And it says, I no longer call you servants because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends. For everything that I learned from my Father, I have made known to you. And that's John 15:15, and it comes from the NIV. All our lives, we search for at least one good and true and loyal friend, don't we? One who loves us lavishly without reservation. One who doesn't pretend to love us because we have something to offer in return. Fame, money, prestige, favors, or business prospect. One who knows us truly all the way through, even those sorry, sinful parts, and love us anyway. One who's in the relationship for the long haul, no matter what. In case you haven't known that truest, dearest friend, it is Jesus of Nazareth. He's the real deal. He is the most intimate friend you will ever find, the most trusted confidant you will ever tell your secrets to, and the most cherishing of lovers, right down to your very soul. And Jesus not only want to be with you for the here and now, but for all times. Now that's true love. So seek the friendship, embrace the love, the mercy, and the grace of Christ. It's right here waiting for you. And it reads, "O Lord, thank you for loving me and for calling me friend." Amen. And again, thank you so much for tuning in to OPM Live, which is an extension of Ordinary People magazine. And as we always say, love, peace, and increase, and be blessed.